Ready to hit the pause button on your parenting fails? Ready to feel better about your parenting? Welcome to Parenting Pause, the podcast, where all of you is welcome and where you can listen in on how other parents became the parents they always dreamed of being. I'm Leslie Potter, the founder of the Pure Joy Parenting Way. I'm a mother, a parenting coach, and a fellow traveler on this journey to wake up in our parenting. And I believe together we can make this a better world for ourselves and our kiddos. Welcome, love, to the Parenting Pause podcast. I'm so excited for you to share about your journey in shifting your parenting over the last 3 years from a more traditional model to the Pure Joy model.
So I have twins who are 7.5 as of a few days ago, a boy and a girl. And, you know, I was divorced early on when they were 2. And I guess my shame and the kinds of things I went through that process kind of pushed me in the other direction from where I've come from working with you. I was out to prove I was a great mom, and these kids are going to behave and say thank you and please and, never say a curse word and be smart and delightful and always behave. And so I became more controlling. And then when that wasn't working, it triggered me, I think, even more because I was really set out to prove something. And it was about at that point when I was in despair that I moved into this community just across the way from you, and you sent out a note in a mom's group, and I thought, well, great, I'll get to know some moms. I had no idea what I was going to be facing, in that mom's group. And, one of the things that just struck me immediately was that the moms were pretty open and sharing of things that I might not have shared because they would cause me shame or something like that. And I immediately jumped forward to try to take care of them and let them know, you're okay. I'm not judging you, And their reaction was, of course I'm okay. And of course I say that with the expectation of not being judged. And I thought, oh, this is different than I thought. And I just sat there and listened and just felt the presence of love and raw honesty and, really, working on things rather than let's get together and pretend what great moms we are, which is what I thought it was going to be.
Wow, so it sounds like it was quite a profound experience for you to step into a container that invited you to be all of who you were versus trying to pretend to be someone that you're not.
It was as if in that moment, and I've had a few moments like that working with you over the years where I'm blind and now I can see the light. In that first session, I thought, oh, this is a whole new way of thinking about things and of experiencing things. And, beginning that journey made me really excited, but also, well, what if it gets me to be a bad mom? If I'm not hard on myself, then I'm not going to be a good mom, is, my first thoughts as I was going through the process.
What a beautiful insight, though, is you just said, I think so many of us think that from our early childhood, maybe we were punished or consequence. So we think, we got to ride ourselves hard. We don't even come up with the thought that maybe I'm okay just the way I am, right? Maybe that's my superpower is just being me. So when you had that initial, let's say just that initial aha, of course, we love these insights. But then, as you say, it sounds like you had a little bit of a fear too, even though it felt great, but there was also a little fear of like, well, how am I going to step into this new insight that I've experienced? What happened next for you?
Well, then you introduced the safe seats, and I noticed over the next 2 or 3 weeks that when I would get triggered by my kids doing something that I thought, oh no, I have to control them, or what if they scream and someone hears? And, I would immediately notice that I would go to self-judgment when I was dealing with my children. My self-judgment is not their problem, but at least I was aware of it. And I would notice that when I would get over triggered, I wouldn't be able to make it into my safe seat at that moment because I was just on autopilot, where I would, then, yeah, get your shoes on or whatever it is. So what I found was in those early days, what I would do is pre-safe seats. So I would start my day imagining things happening to me as the day might go by, like this might happen and this might happen and how it might feel. And that way, in those moments for that day, there was like at least that split moment of realization, oh, I'm being triggered by something about me, and this is not about them. And I would at least have those breaths of realization, and it would often calm me down. But even when it didn't, sometimes I would, still yell, get your shoes on. And then I think, oh no, Leslie might hear me. She's, lives right across the way, and that's bad and wrong. So I immediately went to bad and wrong, which is not really your teaching. And then I would meet you and talk to you and say, did you hear me? And you'd be like, no. And I just felt this presence of love. It's like, despite the fact I'm failing your work, And so it kind of opened me up to you offering me kindness. And for me, that's been the most transformative aspect of this work, is the kindness that's associated with it. And that was another moment that just kind of really opened my eyes wide of, oh, I can offer that to myself.
Maybe you could speak about that a little bit, because I know that took a while for you, because you were only
Oh,
willing to be kind to the good behavior, right? When you were the good Vanessa, or when you had done something well. And I think it really took some time to realize that kindness, when we say be kind, it's not about behavior. It's about wrapping kindness around all of you, everything that's arising.
right. And that is, when I would first, you would tell me that, and I would think, okay, so now I'm in a pretty safe seat and I'm going to offer myself kindness. And I would think about the things in my life, and my brain could not understand how to do that. Like there was not a pathway there for that to exist. And it was almost as if I was working out a math problem. I teach statistics, and so I'm familiar with difficult math problems. And so it's like I was working out a math problem that my brain couldn't understand how to do, because as soon as I would think about something that now I would offer myself kindness, wow, that was a hard one, or wow, you tried your best and that one didn't work, or whatever it is, the kind of self-talk I do now was not available to me initially. I start this practice, I guess it was maybe 6 or 9 months ago, maybe even almost a year ago, where I decided I was going to make Vanessa great again.
I love
And the way
that.
to do that, was to start a day where I would read Hafiz, which is the Sufi poet who writes really short, simple poems. So that takes 10 seconds to read. And he kind of makes me feel like if he were standing there, he would be offering myself kindness. So I was able to access self-kindness, strangely, through this poet that I felt would love me if he were standing there. And so then I was able to then be there for myself, and I started to have that groove. And, honestly, mantras help. So, where I just say to myself things like, you know what, Vanessa? Yeah, that one didn't work, but, that's not your strength. You have other strengths. And so I would say to myself out loud throughout the day, Vanessa, that one's not your strength. You have other strengths. And I would think about my other strengths and feel grateful for my other strengths at this moment where I've just missed an appointment or forgotten something or whatever. Those things are not my strengths. And the most beautiful story out of that was Sarah had messed something up in some game with Craig where she messed something up, and she said to him, "That's not my strength, Craig. I have other strengths." And I thought, yes, that's awesome. It never occurred to me that I was modeling for them self-kindness. To desire that for her made me realize how much I desire that for me.
And this is the beauty of the work because we're often trying to teach our children something that we haven't given ourselves. And it never worked for me. You know, my daughter wouldn't take it, or she would say, "You're therapizing me," or "Stop trying to get me to do something." And so I really realized that if I could separate out and start to give myself what I desperately felt I wanted to give her, right? I wanted to give her everything I didn't get. But she wasn't actually asking for that. She had me as her mother. She didn't have a crazy alcoholic mother, right? And so
Right.
when I began to come back in and really what you're describing, this beautiful you started offering kindness to the one in you that you had been so hard on because that was your survival, love. That was how you survived as a child, right? That was your strategy. If I can make myself small, if I can beat myself up, then it's just easier to live in my family. And yet now, as you say, you're raising this beautiful daughter and this beautiful son that I want them to have self-love and to have self-safety. But again, we all think we have to teach them from the outside. And my daughter learned it from me doing it myself.
So much of it is about modeling. One of the things that I've just like tried on, like you try on a shirt, is this thing about not punishing and not rewarding for certain behaviors, you know? And what I find is that they're so honest with me that I'll say, "Well, Craig, did you hit your sister?" "Yes." "Okay. Did you do it on purpose?" "Yes." You know? And I'll say things like, "Wow, Craig, you really tell the truth all the time." And he
Wow.
says, "No, I don't. I lie all the time." I was like, "Wow, you just proved my
Mm.
whole point," you know? And I thought, "Oh my gosh, I have been taught to lie." And, there were lies that I told my parents, as everybody does, but even trying to pretend I'm the best parent and I'm going to prove to the world I'm a best parent is a form of a lie. And that interrupts friendships and relationships and your relationship with your children. And the fact that I can offer to them a place where they can be exactly who they are and react exactly as they're reacting. And I can come back and say, "Okay, well, Craig, what was going on for you when you hit your sister?" And approach it with curiosity without judgment. And I get that they feel no judgment from me. So then I can say, "Oh, okay," and we can talk about it, openly. I mean, my daughter told me a few weeks ago, she said, "Mommy, I just want to let you know, when you talk, I'm never listening to you." She says, "You're really boring." And I said, it made me laugh. It didn't make me threatened or. And so I said, "Is there anything I can do to make myself more interesting?" And she said, "No." And so now I might be talking and I'll say, "Sarah, is this the boring part?" And she said, "Yeah, this is really boring." And I said, "Well, okay, I'm going to keep talking then." And, we tease about it and then it's real. Then there's no fakeness between us. It's a true connection that I'm having with my children and getting them used to a true connection that might set the stage for a healthy relationship in the future.
That is the ground that this work we're choosing instead of in our culture, we often have the gold standard is good behavior. So in this model, we're not that's not our gold standard. Our gold standard is just what you're describing, a connected relationship, a safe container for both to be real, to be who you truly are without judgment. And of course, we're going to have all our judgments and all of that. But kindness, you're just describing you're sitting in the seat of kindness.
And
Well,
I sit in that seat now a lot.
I would love for you to tell a story. I know you have a great story about Craig when he got scared the other night, because I would love for parents to kind of hear some of these examples because that always helps. All these concepts are great, but when we bring it into practical.
Yeah, so he had watched a movie trailer that scared him. And it was a comedy movie trailer, but and so adults might not think, oh, that's going to be scary for a child because it's funny. But Craig was not getting that that was funny. And he, got really terrified. And so we went to bed and he said, Mommy, I'm just really afraid. And so we lay there for maybe an hour and I'm getting agitated inside myself because I've got finals to grade. I need to get up and or go to sleep right now so that I can get up in the morning early and do I was thinking of all the things I had to do. But then I'm looking at this sweet little boy who is just terrified like I've never seen him. And so I just held him and offered myself kindness for, okay, you're agitated right now and you're scared, you're not going to get things done. And so I was able to hold him as I held myself. And initially he asked to get up and watch TV. And I remember as a child thinking that that would be a good idea because it would change my focus. It would get my brain to forget this thing I was scared of. And at first I said no, but then when I remembered that I experienced that as a child, I thought, okay, let's get up. And I thought, well, let's watch something that will make me laugh and relieve my nerves and be very boring for him. That's what I was thinking. So we watched The Office reruns, and it did exactly what I thought. It calmed me down because I laughed. And I'm telling you, Leslie, we watched The Office reruns for 4 hours until 3:30 in the morning, and he didn't sleep a wink. And at one point he kind of snuggled up to me and he said, Mommy, you have offered me so much kindness tonight. I would really like to return the favor. And he doesn't hear the word kindness out of me. So those were his words to describe what was going on. And I was so touched. And then we went to bed and snuggled and slept for 2 hours and woke up and I was exhausted, but so charged up by here's a child who can tell me all the bad things he does, but then when he's feeling this kindness, he can express that without me thinking, oh, he's being manipulative. He's not, My ex-husband, who uses a very kind of traditional, but maybe even more harsh than traditional, punitive kinds of things. And we were in the doctor's office a few days later, and he described Craig and Sarah as manipulative little liars. And I had this moment of honestly feeling kindness to him for he doesn't know his children. He has no idea who his children are. And that made me feel sad for him, not like pity, but just honest empathy for feeling sad for that loss.
Yeah, and everything you're describing, I mean, I have another story I would like to share that I witnessed since we live in the same community that was so touching to me that some of you don't know about the safe seat. You're hearing Vanessa talk about that, and you are welcome to go to the webpage at purejoyparenting.com and download a copy of the safe seat, because this is the core practice of what we do in this work. And it's actually creating a safe base, first of all, for ourselves when we get triggered, where we can come back in and begin to regulate. And I witnessed a moment of this that I just want to give you that I saw. You were working, digging up dandelions, and your daughter came running over to you and she said, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, I'm scared. There's a bee. There's a bee." And you just took her in your arms. And she just sat there and she breathed. You didn't say a word. You just held her, just like a safe base, and just held her. And then she looked out and she saw all the other kids were having fun. And then she ran back out. And then about 2 or 3 minutes later, boom, she comes back. She says, "Mama, mama, mama, there's a bee." Right? And you just took her in your arms and she just relaxed. I watched her just relax back into you. And then she looked out and she looked out and she realized all the kids were having fun. And then she took herself back out, right? So she found her own motivation internally to go face her fear. And it was such
Right.
a poignant moment because I watched another mom and a little girl came over and she goes, "Mama, mama, mama, there's a bee." And the mom said, "Well, that bee's not going to hurt you. Bees are nice. We got to be nice to bees. They're out to save the world and they bring us honey. And you need to go out there and be nice to the bee." Right? And she was doing her best too. No
Of
judgment on
course.
her, but it was just seeing the two opposites where in the old style, we kind of push the child out. Like you need to go back out there and you got to face your fear and you got to take care of the bee. And yours, you had such confidence and faith in Sarah coming to the safe place and then self regulating. And then she found the self regulation to take herself back out into a challenging situation. So I just wanted to share that, because I know you didn't even know you were doing it. I was just watching from
No.
a distance. But it was so powerful to see both examples side by side, just to support people in knowing. Again, neither one are right or wrong, but we want our children to be, or at least we say we do, and I know I did. I wanted my daughter to have her own intrinsic internal motivation. I wanted her to have her own self-safety and her own self-love. And that's what we begin to work in this model when we, as you said, when you began early on, you wanted to teach them how to behave and to teach them how to be a certain way so that you would be okay. And I witnessed you, and you didn't even know I was watching, but I witnessed you really be that safe base, first of all, for yourself and therefore for your daughter. It's quite powerful,
Mhm.
Vanessa.
Oh, that's lovely. And I love that everything that happens is in a way it's their motivation and their choice about what to do, and I just kind of guide them through and help them guide through, teach them, well, okay, so I understand you want to do that or you want to say that, and that's okay in my house. But if you go out into the world and you say or do those things, other people might view it this way, kind of idea. So that I'm preparing them for the world without shaming them. Well, that's bad because I'm afraid they're going to do that out in the world and be shamed. Instead, I say, you know what, this isn't bad. It's a way of doing or saying, but out in the world, people might react to you like that. And they're like, okay. And then they can make that choice too. And then they can come back to me and say, well, somebody said that was bad. And so I can help them work it out on their own. There was a moment where I had been doing this work for maybe a year. And I witnessed a little boy bullying Sarah over and over and over again, day to day to day, kind of being kind of mean. And I just thought, you know what? Everyone's safe right now. Let me see what happens rather than intervene, and I would be kind of in the other room so that I'm not helicoptering or whatever. And she just came in one day and told Craig, she didn't tell me, she told Craig, I told him I'm not playing with him for a whole year. And that's what she did. She was 5 years old. The next year, she was 6 years old. She started playing with him again. And I thought, that girl takes care of herself. She didn't need me to intervene. Now, if somebody's unsafe, that's a completely different story. But just a little bit of teasing, a little bit of negative, and the little girl took care of herself. And so she is I'm preparing her for bullies when she's a mom and there's mom judgment, or, when she's an adult, where she has handled that herself and watched it be successful. And so that's been really lovely too, to think they're becoming who they are.
And I'm
So,
hearing you are becoming who you are, my dear, through
yeah.
this, energy of kindness that is
Oh,
who you are. Mm.
yes.
So, so lovely to talk with you. And I so appreciate you sharing your story. I think our stories are the most powerful of all as mamas because we're often isolated. And as you express so beautifully, looking out and thinking other people have it together and judging ourselves. So I so deeply appreciate you being willing to share your vulnerability and to give us your kindness today. So thank you. This week, I'd like to thank Vanessa for sharing her profound journey in finding the doorway to kindness. Parenting Paused is produced by Kim Paletti at Sound Mind Productions. Music by Jan Perchik. You can find the show notes at www.purejoyparenting.com, where you'll get access to the foundational practice of Pure Joy, the safe seat, and find links to relevant topics, as well as a transcription of the show. And if this work inspires you and you would like to practice, come join us in my free Pure Joy Parenting Practice group. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for being here today and listening to the Parenting Pause podcast, your partner and support in finding the joy in yourself and with your children. And remember, if you're about to scream, pause.